just a really quick video to give you some top tips on how to make a choux pastry. And I'm going to show you how to pipe beautiful eclairs onto your baking tray. I've made choux pastry since I was a small girl, and I think actually it was the first thing I've ever made. Tried it about 500 times until I've really nailed it. Now that I have a Thermomix, it's so much easier. So let's get started. You just need some water. Pour that right in. Some butter. You can use fridge butter, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be at room temperature. And a pinch of salt. And we're going to cook this for about 3 minutes until it's nicely dissolved and almost boiling. Now that we've almost boiled our water and butter, we're going to drop in the flour, and we're going to also drop in a tiny bit of baking powder. It just helps to really get a nice, even eclair or profiterole. Then we're going to pop it on 1.5 minutes on speed 4. After that, we leave our choux pastry to cool down a little bit, and it's really important, this one. You have to let it cool down at least for about 10 minutes so it comes down to about 50 degrees. And you'll see that on your dial actually. The reason is, if you drop the eggs in and it's too warm, the eggs will curdle and this whole thing will become a big scrambled egg. So make sure that you always leave this mixture to cool down. Take the lid off and just leave it for a little while, probably 10 to 15 minutes before you continue. And now just leave the steam to escape, and now watch this. As it goes down below 50 degrees, you can see that temperature gauge will slowly go down as your bowl cools down. That's when we add in our eggs, because you don't want your eggs to go in and then it curdles. So let's see you in about 10 to 15 minutes. Now we're going to add our eggs through the lid, but we're going to get the machine running at about speed 5. And the reason why I want to do this very slowly, one at a time, is because we don't want this to curdle, okay? So top tip, don't add your eggs at the same time, go one by one as the machine is going, and then we get a really nice and smooth and creamy, airy choux pastry, which is exactly what we want. So this looks like a pretty creamy choux pastry, but we're just going to give it one more nice mix, again at speed 5, just to make sure everything is well incorporated. And I'm just going to take my spatula to just remove anything else that's left on the lid or in the mixing bowl. Our choux pastry is done, and you can recognize the perfect choux pastry on how glossy it is. This is exactly how we want it to look. And now we're going to fill it into our piping bag, and I'm going to show you how to pipe some perfect eclairs. To give you a quick tip on how to pipe the choux pastry really nicely, get yourself a tray sorted, and I'm going to just pipe a couple of bits of that pastry underneath my baking paper, just so that it can stick really nicely and it doesn't flop around as you're piping. Then I'm going to take this and very slowly pipe a nice long line, like that, okay? And I keep going that way, like that. Another great trick to make a really lovely straight eclair is to pipe, and this is a bit strange to show, but to pipe S shapes. So you go like this, like that. So to even anything out that wasn't perfect, you just take a little bit of water, wet your finger, and just slightly smooth out anything that wasn't perfect. So for example, these edges here, you can just smooth that out nicely. So anything that isn't straight, you can just take your wet finger, and you really don't want to do too much, and you don't want to add too much water either, because that can make them soggy. But just take these bits which aren't perfect and smooth them out nicely. So these are some pretty neat choux buns, but you can also make little profiteroles, whatever you like to do with this choux pastry. You could even keep it in the fridge overnight and use it the next day, just so that it comes to room temperature. Once you've baked these for the first half an hour, make sure you never open the oven during the first half an hour. You actually poke a little hole in each of those choux pastries with a little bamboo skewer. And then you're going to put them back in the oven at a lower temperature to fully dry them out. And then you're ready to fill them with whatever fillings you like. I love some matcha, custard, or some lovely chocolate ganache, whatever strikes your fancy. So do subscribe to my YouTube channel for more amazing videos and tips and tricks on making the perfect pastries and cakes.